Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Garden Girls podcast. Today, we're doing a really special Halloween episode. As you can see, we are all dressed up. I'm a deer, and we've got Dagny as our scarecrow, and then we've got Amy as the official enemy of the Garden Girls. She's a
Yeah,
slug.
I am my own garden nemesis.
The cutest slug. So, today we're going to be diving into gardens that have witnessed not just the beauty of nature, but dark and deadly deeds. Amy, why don't you start us off with a spooky story?
Okay, so picture Rome in the 17th century, a city of opulent palaces, bustling markets, and quiet shaded gardens tucked away behind stone walls. It was in one of these hidden corners of the city that a woman named Julia Tofana operated a secretive and deadly business. While she may not have been a noblewoman or a wealthy merchant, Julia wielded a power far greater, the power of life and death. This is where it gets serious. Her clientele was mostly women trapped in unhappy and often abusive marriages. Divorce was nearly impossible back then, and women had very few legal rights. For those women, Julia's services offered a grim kind of freedom. And the tool of that freedom? Poison. Julia Tofana is credited with creating a notorious potion known as Aqua Tofana, a colorless, tasteless potion that became her signature weapon. But what many don't know is that the poison she brewed was derived from the very plants she grew in her private garden. In Julia's garden, deadly plants like belladonna, wolfsbane, and foxgloves thrived. To the untrained eye, it might have seemed like a peaceful, even beautiful place, but Julia knew the deadly potential that lay in each flower and leaf. Let's start with belladonna, also known as deadly nightshade. This plant, with its dark, glossy berries and purple flowers, was as alluring as it was dangerous. Even a small amount could cause hallucinations, paralysis, and even death, making it the perfect ingredient for aqua tofana. Then there was aconite, also known as wolfsbane. This plant has a long history of use as a poison. It was said to be used by ancient hunters to tip their arrows. The plant contains powerful neurotoxins that can slow the heart and eventually stop it altogether. Aconite's roots and leaves were commonly used by Julia to add potency to her poison. Julia's method of delivering death was subtle and insidious. Aqua tofana was undetectable in food or drink. Women would discreetly mix the liquid into their husband's wine or soup over a period of days or weeks. The poison acted slowly, mimicking the symptoms of illness. First, the victim would experience fatigue, then stomach pains, and eventually death. The slow progression of symptoms made it difficult for doctors to identify the cause, allowing Julia and her clients to escape suspicion. For 20 years, Julia ran her poison empire from the shadows. Hundreds of men met their end at the hand of her clients, their deaths often written off as natural causes. Her network of assistants, including her daughter, helped distribute the poison across cities like Rome, Naples, and Palermo. It is said that some nuns were among her clients, women who had taken vows of chastity and obedience, but sought a way out of oppressive lives. So, how did Julia's reign of poison finally come to an end? Like many criminal empires, it was brought down by a single mistake. According to legend, one of Julia's clients had a change of heart. After receiving aqua tofana, she became racked with guilt and confessed to her husband before he had taken the poison. He reported the woman to the authorities, and under torture, she revealed Julia's name. What followed was one of the largest poison investigations in history. Julia, her daughter, and several of her accomplices were arrested and tortured until they confessed. The authorities claimed that over 600 men had been killed by aqua tofana, though the number may never be known. Julia was executed, but her legacy as one of the most prolific poisoners in history endures to this day. And what of her garden, the place where the death was cultivated? Some say that the land itself became cursed. Flowers no longer bloomed there, and the soil turned sour. Superstitious locals whispered that the spirits of Julia's victims haunted the site, never able to rest because of the slow, torturous deaths they had suffered. Others believed that the very plants she once used to craft her poisons carried the memories of those who had perished. Julia Tofana's story is a chilling reminder that gardens, though often seen as places of life and growth, can also be instruments of death. The next time you plant herbs or flowers, remember that even the most innocent-looking plants can hide a deadly secret.
It's hard to villainize her.
Yeah, I know what you
It
mean.
is. It's very hard to villainize these women because they were poisoning men that were
Yeah.
abusive, and we know how that can be
Mhm.
today. I can't even imagine how it was back then when you were literally trapped, not able to do anything, and you were a woman that had 0 rights and just 0 way
Yeah.
out.
They really didn't have a lot of options.
But also good for her being such a successful entrepreneur. Like, she started a whole business there.
She must have been raking in the money, to be honest.
Yeah,
Right.
I wonder how rich she
Mhm.
was, like, how rich this made her because 600 men, that's a lot of aqua
Yeah,
tofana.
that's wild.
Did she charge a premium for this? Or, I want to know what the business model
Or was
was.
she just doing it for free because she wanted to help
Mm,
the women?
was there a subscription service? Like,
And also, like, she included a lot of the plants that we talked about in the last episode as well.
for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the ointment.
We couldn't get more than 10 minutes in without saying the word ointment.
If you wanna know what the
Yeah.
ointment is, you have to go back and listen to the last episode.
Mhm.
But, yeah, that's really interesting. These women could probably get away with saying they died of natural causes because of the way that it was killing
Yeah, and
them.
I guess illness was a lot more common as well, so it wouldn't have been picked up on as much as, like, if there were hundreds of men dropping dead around here, people would be like, there's probably something going on." But back then, I guess, maybe they thought they were just getting sick.
Yeah, people were dropping dead
Yeah.
left and right in the 1600s. There were so many plagues. I'm actually surprised that she got caught.
Yeah. She really she freed a lot of women there. I mean, I'm not condoning murder or anything, but also I can
Absolutely
kind of
not.
No.
understand.
Like, taking into consideration the time and how you had literally 0 rights, you couldn't get divorced, you have an abusive husband, you're in this abusive relationship, like,
Yeah.
what else are you supposed to do? I honestly would probably resort to poison
Mhm.
myself if I were to put myself in those
Yeah,
shoes.
true. And I'm sure there are a lot of men murdering men and men murdering women as well at that time. So
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah,
100%.
I'm kind of sad that they said the garden stopped thriving. I would love to visit that kind of place. Sounds really cool.
They could have made it into, like, a place to visit.
Mm.
I know that there are several, like, poison gardens. It would be cool if we could actually visit
Mhm.
hers just to see what else she had going
All
on
the
in there. Because 'cause I'm
history.
sure it wasn't just those. It was probably she probably had, like, some secrets in
Yeah.
there, I'm
I
sure.
reckon it was so beautiful as well. Like all these poisonous plants are really pretty plants. I bet it looked
Mhm.
amazing. I kind of want to grow my own poison garden. Not for like any poisoning. I'm not planning on
Sure,
using
what?
it.
sure.
I'm not planning on making any ointments before you say anything. I just think it would look cute. Like foxgloves. Maybe not hemlock. I already have that to be fair. Um belladonna.
But, like,
Yeah.
wolfsbane, belladonna,
Why
yeah.
not?
It would have this, like, allure to it, like, "Ooh, all of these plants could kill
Mm.
me." Almost give you, like, an
Yeah,
adrenaline
like go
rush when
fall
you're
into that
tending
flower
to the
bed.
garden.
Everybody likes a little element of danger.
Mhm.
I think I would like to do that as well. Maybe I will.
Yeah, do it.
So now let's step back into the world of the Renaissance, a time of beauty and intrigue where art and science flourished, but so did betrayal and murder. In the heart of this shadowy world were the Borgias, one of history's most notorious families. At the center of this story are two infamous siblings, Lucrezia Borgia, the daughter of Pope Alexander VI, and her equally ruthless brother, Cesare Borgia. Together, they cultivated not just power, but also death. And in their deathly hands, even the gardens they walked in were weapons of murder. So let's start with Lucrezia. The image of her as a fair haired beauty in lavish gowns bellies the dark rumors that swirled around her. Though much of her reputation has been sensationalized, there's no doubt that poison was part of the Borgia family's arsenal. In fact, Lucrezia was said to have maintained a private garden, a beautiful and secluded place where she grew some of the most dangerous plants known to humankind. In this deadly garden, there was belladonna. We've already heard a ton about that, also known as deadly nightshade. And while it was used by women of the time to dilate their pupils for cosmetic purposes, which is crazy, Belladonna's true nature is far more sinister. It can cause hallucinations, paralysis, and even death. Then there was henbane, an herb that has long been associated with witchcraft. Its hallucinogenic properties made it popular for potions, and in higher doses, it was lethal. There's even speculation that Lucrezia's infamous hollow ring, rumored to be a poison ring, could have even been used to slip a lethal dose of such a substance into the drink of an unsuspecting victim. That's
That's
wild. Like
cool.
a poison
Yeah.
ring.
I
I've
want
never
one.
heard of that before. That's
It's
very
so
cool.
sly.
I
Imagine just
want one,
like
but I want to keep little seeds in it, like fun things I can plant.
A seed ring.
This
Maybe we should come out with like a seed ring.
maybe.
Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Maybe coming soon, a seed ring.
Chicken
Slash
chaos.
poison ring from the
a
Garden Girls.
chaos sewing ring.
Yes. Oh my
As
god,
Amy was
that's
saying it. Yeah.
brilliant. That's brilliant. There was also wolfsbane and hemlock rumored to grow in this garden alongside other poisonous plants. Many of Lucrezia's enemies met untimely and mysterious deaths, often blamed on poison, though some historians argue that Lucrezia herself may not have been as directly involved as the legend suggests. Her garden, full of these toxic plants, became a symbol of the deadly influence the Borgia family held. People believed that the same hands that tended these plants could just as easily deliver death in a cup of wine. But Lucrezia wasn't the only one who wielded the power of poison in the Borgia family. Her brother, Cesare Borgia, was perhaps even more ruthless. Unlike Lucrezia, whose reputation is clouded by mystery, Cesare's cruelty is well documented. As a military commander and political leader, Cesare used every tool at his disposal to consolidate power, including poison. Like Lucrezia, Cesare is believed to have cultivated his own garden of deadly plants, but his methods were more direct and brutal. Cesare's rise to power was meteoric, thanks in large part to his father, Pope Alexander VI, who appointed him commander of the papal armies. But Cesare wasn't satisfied with being his father's general. He wanted absolute control. His garden was rumored to be filled with plants like aconite, also known as wolfsbane, whose toxins could stop a heart in mere minutes. Cesare's use of poison was a tool of political expediency. He eliminated rivals, critics, and even his own allies when they outlived their usefulness. Perhaps the most chilling tale tied to Cesare is the murder of his own brother, Juan Borgia. Juan's body was found floating in the Tiber River, and while the official cause of death was never established, many suspected that Cesare was behind the murder. The brothers were rivals, both politically and personally, and it's said that Cesare used his deadly knowledge of poisons to rid himself of his sibling in his quest for power. A story that we all know too well. It's giving like Game
It's
of
giving
Thrones.
nepotism,
It
baby, to
is.
be honest.
The cold calculation with which he pursued his ambitions earned Cesare a reputation as one of the most feared men in Italy. What's even more terrifying is the legacy of the gardens these two siblings tended. Lucrezia's garden was filled with delicate flowers that could kill with the touch of a leaf or the sip of an infusion, while Cesare's was a place where political plots were hatched amid poisonous plants. Even after their deaths, the Borgia's name became synonymous with murder, intrigue, and betrayal. And what of the gardens themselves? So, rumor has it that the land where Cesare's villa once stood is cursed. Plants grow strangely twisted, and visitors often report an eerie feeling as if they're being watched. In Lucrezia's former estates, some say that the scent of flowers is sometimes accompanied by a sense of unease, as though the plants themselves remember the hands that once tended them. Hands that could just as easily brew tea or mix poison. So, the story of Lucrezia and Cesare Borgia is a haunting reminder of how gardens, which are usually symbols of life and growth, can just as easily become places of death and destruction when they fall into the wrong hands. The Borgias cultivated power and poison, and in doing so, they left behind a legacy that still sends shivers down the spine. So, this family has issues.
Wow.
Those genes run deep.
I feel like their parents probably should have gone to therapy.
Right. And they should have gone to therapy themselves because just poisoning your enemies, that is very rude.
Not a good coping mechanism.
No.
I'm surprised they didn't poison each other.
I know. Well, they did. Cesare poisoned his brother Juan for
Oh, yeah,
power.
no, I mean, I'm surprised that the sister and the brother didn't poison each other.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, see, the sister, Chisari, wasn't worried about
That's true.
her
I
because she
guess,
couldn't
yeah,
take his power
not a threat.
as a woman. Very brutal, very
Mm.
ruthless, not very demure.
No, not very
Mm-mm.
mindful. I like that you can visit this one though.
Yeah, same. I wonder if it's still like a garden space
Yeah.
or if it's just like I wonder if someone still tends to a garden there
You would think
for
so.
the lore.
Like,
I feel like that'd be very morbid.
Yeah.
but for like the
It would
tourist
be
attraction of it,
so
you know?
cool.
Like, surely you
Yeah.
would. You'd be like, this plant
Just
can kill you. He's this for this.
for the story of it, I think it would be cool to visit, even though they were obviously very awful
Yeah.
people. I definitely can villainize these
Yeah.
people.
I liked Julia from the first one, but these guys not so much.
Lucrezia, she's giving like Disney villain. Like she's just her enemies were just poisoned. She's just like, I don't like you. Here's poison. Not really any reason, it seems
Yeah.
like. It just says that her enemies met untimely and mysterious deaths.
It seems like it was more about, like, power and
Yeah.
control within the family than, like, actually helping
Mhm.
anyone.
It's like nothing was ever good enough. I'll just poison everyone. That'll solve my problems.
Yeah, that's one way to deal with it.
I wonder what poison they like, do you guys watch Game of Thrones or have you
Yeah.
watched it?
Yeah.
Okay, like, where she's like, "Tell Cersei, I want her to know it was me." Like, I wonder what poison they used because he was like, "Oh, it's" when she killed Joffrey, it was like this horrendous
Yeah.
poison that obviously did what it did to him,
And
but
it was
then
the same
she
one.
got a nice poison where she just kind of fell like, kind of
And
peacefully
that's
died.
true.
I just wanna know what the
What it
like, which
was.
ones are
Yeah.
like yeah, like, what it was.
Yeah, they never did
Obviously,
say.
it's fiction, but, you know, it seems like there are different poisons that can do different things depending on how you mix it, like with the girl with the aqua tofana,
That's true.
Julia. She mixed it specifically, like a recipe that made it seem like these people were dying of natural
Yeah, she was
causes.
like microdosing
So
the poison.
it's just
Mm.
interesting. I just wanna know what the recipes are, just for education purposes. I do know that in the Hunger Games, like, the berries that they ate at or they were going to eat at the end it was called Nightlock, but it's inspired by hemlock,
They do
FYI.
have Milk of the Poppy in Game of Thrones, which is obviously based on actual poppies, which
Which you can die from that as well, right?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that's, like, going back to that fine line
Mhm.
between medicine and
Mhm.
poison.
Our final tale brings us to the lush and sprawling gardens of Rainham Hall in Norfolk, England, a place known not only for its beautiful grounds, but for its tragic and ghostly past. Raynham Hall is famous for the apparition of the Brown Lady. This is a ghost of Lady Dorothy Walpole, who is said to haunt Raynham Hall, and she earned the nickname because of the brown colored dress that she is often seen wearing in her ghostly apparitions. Lady Dorothy Walpole's life was filled with rumors of scandal. She allegedly had an affair, and when her husband Charles discovered this, he reportedly locked her in Raynham Hall as punishment. She died in 1726, though there are conflicting accounts about the cause of her death. Some say it was from smallpox, while others claim it was due to neglect, a broken heart, or foul play. But there's another spirit that haunts these gardens, the spirit of a murdered gardener. The story goes that in the 18th century, a gardener at Raynham Hall was found dead under mysterious circumstances. He had been tending to the roses when, without warning, he was brutally attacked and left for dead among the flowers. His body was discovered the next morning, his hands still clutching the tools of his trade. That's how I want to go.
Honestly.
Minus the murder part. The mystery of his murder was never solved, and the violence that had come to the serene garden seemed to linger in the air. Soon after his death, strange things began to happen. Gardeners would report seeing shadowy figures moving between the trees, and tools would disappear, only to be found later in strange places as though moved by an unseen hand. Visitors claimed to hear faint whispers when walking through the garden at dusk, and some said they could feel a presence following them, watching from behind the bushes. The ghost of the murdered gardener has been spotted many times over the years, always near the rose garden where he met his fate. Some say he's still trying to finish his work pruning the plants or watering the beds, even in death. Others believe he's searching for his killer, wandering the garden in eternal unrest. What's eerie is how the current gardeners talk about their experiences. They say the garden itself feels alive in a way that goes beyond the plants, It's as though the very soil remembers the tragedy. Raynham Hall's gardens, so full of life, also hold the weight of this death. The ghost of the Brown Lady gained widespread fame in 1936 when a photograph allegedly captured her floating down the grand staircase of Raynham Hall. This image remains one of the most famous ghost photos ever taken. As gardeners, we know that tending to plants brings us closer to the cycles of life and death, but in places like Raynham Hall, the balance seems to tip toward the darker side, where the past refuses to rest.
Ooh, interesting.
Wow.
I love that they think he is still there tending to his garden. I wish he could come and help me with my garden, to be honest. That would be great.
Yeah,
Have a
where's my
little
garden
ghost
ghost?
helper.
Right. I feel like that's gonna be me as a
Mhm.
ghost, just still out there tending to the
Yeah.
garden, pruning roses, everything. I am sad that it was unsolved. No
Yeah.
one ever figured out what happened to him. That's very sad.
Are they insinuating that the ghost of Dorothy is like murdering men in her garden because she's upset? Like, or was this just a completely unrelated event? It's just weird.
Mm.
It's weird that at the Raynham Hall, there's like 2 ghosts that can be captured by photo and felt in the garden. It makes me really wanna go to this
Yeah.
place. So, it sounds like we just need to go to Europe.
I
All these places are
know.
in Europe. We need to go
Let's
to
go
Europe,
on a
have a
garden ghost
little
tour.
ghosty trip, a ghostly garden
That would be
tour,
so fun.
yes. What if he was tending to the garden and he came across one of these deadly plants and he
Potentially.
didn't know,
So he was just
and
found
maybe that's
like
how he
dead on
died?
the floor.
And it says he was brutally attacked, but
Oh,
that he was found
just kidding.
clutching the tools of his trade. So, like, how can you also be like
Well,
that kind
you
of
could be
sounds like
trying to
2 different
defend
things.
yourself with the tools.
They don't say the guy's name. They don't say anything about, like, the details of how he was found, just that he was brutally attacked.
Maybe it is that the brown lady maybe spookily attacked him. Maybe she wanted some company in the afterlife.
Maybe she loved him. So, according to legend, the gardener who worked at Raynham Hall had a tragic fate. It is said that he fell in love with one of the estate's residents, Lady Dorothy, who is often identified as the Brown Lady. However, she did not return his affections, leading to despair. The gardener's fate is variously told, with some accounts suggesting he died in a state of unrequited love, while others claim he committed suicide. After his death, his spirit is believed to have lingered at Raynham Hall, creating a connection to the Brown Lady.
But is it also possible that this is the person she was having the affair with?
Yes. And that's why she was locked away.
Right.
And then maybe the husband killed the gardener. That would be my theory. That's my
Charles.
theory. It's always the
Ugh,
husband.
Yeah.
Charles.
So I think that makes sense. He found out she was cheating. She got locked away in the tower. She died, and then
How far apart did they die?
she died in 1726.
It just says 18th century for the gardener, which would
Yeah,
still be
the
the
exact date
1700s.
of the gardener's death is unclear and often varies in different versions of the legend. Some stories suggest he died shortly after Lady Dorothy, perhaps in the mid 18th century, while others imply he may have died around the same time or even earlier.
I guess we'll never know.
My vote is the husband did it.
Yeah, I think so.
It would make sense.
I guess we don't have records of that because
Well-
gardeners were usually like lower class, I think. So
Well, maybe they found each other
Mhm.
as ghosts, and it's like an American Horror Story situation. Maybe they're just like trapped in the house,
maybe they're just hanging
being all
out.
ghosties
Yeah,
together.
All I'm saying is I want a garden ghost assistant.
me too.
Yeah, same. I just want an assistant.
Yeah, me
Period.
too. You don't have to
dead
be
or
dead.
alive.
But either is fine.
I'm not fussy.
Yeah.
It is strange because gardens are such peaceful places, but it seems like they can also be the origin of really deadly plants and violent acts. And there's kind of a weird balance going on there. Like, why are all these dark deeds happening in gardens?
I feel like we kind of forget the power of plants these days. Like, plants have the power to kill you from just like a single leaf, or they have the power to heal you as well, which is pretty crazy. And I think that's kind of underrated now, you know?
I know. That just makes plants so much
Yeah.
cooler.
Like I said, you have to have that element of danger.
Yeah, I do really want my own poison garden.
Always.
It would be fun. I've not really visited any.
No, I don't even know where there are any like near me at all.
I know. I think the most famous one is in England, if I'm not mistaken. Now I'll have to look it up.
I've seen their social media and they're always like People always faint in our poison garden. Get a grip, guys.
The poison garden at the Alnwick Garden in Northumberland,
Mhm.
England, is home to more than 100 toxic, intoxicating, and narcotic plants, and it's open to the public. I want to go.
I know it's like one of the only places in the UK that's allowed to just grow weed plants, but they had to like lock it in a cage because obviously people would steal it.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up here, but I hope you leave here wondering how many other gardens out there have similar dark secrets just waiting to be uncovered.
Not mine yet, but maybe soon.
Happy Halloween from the Garden Girls. And you can check us out on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And let us know in the comments if you have any dark garden secrets or poisonous plants or anything like that. And we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.